In the 71 years since he first graced Japan's silver screens, Godzilla has had some truly great highs. From his powerful anti-nuclear debut to the poignant, inspiring -1, the King of Monsters has seen some truly great times. But that's not always the case. For a career this storied, there must surely also be lows, and few were as low as the 1998 American version starring Matthew Broderick. The Great Lizard was reduced in size and threat levels as he, or she, cowered behind buildings and was tricked by big piles of fish.
That's a lot of fish!
The film was so bad, the monster was renamed Zilla as he had all been stripped of his godhood, and is now canonically an entirely different Godzilla-esque creature, one that gets wrecked within seconds of meeting the OG. But much has already been said of that abomination and insult to the world's most enduring kaiju. Instead here, I've rustled up 5 more atrocious Godzilla films that sullied the King's great name. Enjoy these wrecks that are on par with the destruction of Tokyo. I'd like to think there must be a good way to natively bring Godzilla to the English-speaking world, but it's been 7 decades and they still haven't figured it out. They've gotten close. I enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong, I guess, but that was it. Almost half a century before Ferris Bueller would make an ass out of him, Godzilla had another adventure with an American. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, was an edit of the original 1954 film, made with American audiences in mind. And it is a hat stand of a film. It's basically the plot of the original Godzilla, but seen through the eyes of a reporter comically named Steve Martin, played by Raymond Burr. If you aren't fully up to date with your Godzilla lore, or it's been a while since you've seen it, there is no Steve Martin in Godzilla. That would be a very easy murder to solve. In the film, Raymond Burr Forrest Gumps his way through the entirety of Ishiro Honda's film, inserting himself where he shouldn't be, in scenes that end up playing out like bizarre fanfiction. It reads like someone is telling their friends a cool anecdote, and a third friend keeps interjecting, claiming how they were totally there. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of that meme when everyone kept insisting Graggle was a real Simpsons character. In order to minimize the amount of Japanese heard, Steve Martin narrates constantly and everyone else just speaks perfect English. And it's not like the film is giving the audience a universal translator either, as we hear people speak Japanese here and there. This suggests that Serizawa, Emiko and the rest are all just canonically speaking perfect American accented English throughout. This isn't the worst film on this list, not by a long shot. For one, it was the only way for the West to watch Godzilla for absolutely ages, and, well, it is the original Godzilla, for about half the runtime. But ultimately, the experience of watching King of the Monsters is one of watching the original Godzilla in a movie theatre where you're sat next to Raymond Burr, who insists he's the in-house audio description service. Oh, and do they keep the Hiroshima allegory? You bet your ass they don't. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is the sort of film you'll start to watch, only to realise 20 minutes in that you've already seen it and completely forgot. It's not exactly what we would call memorable, but it is the perfect film to watch if you've ever wanted to see Godzilla fight a Pokemon, as the main antagonist in the movie is exactly that. The film is, ostensibly, about people making mistake after mistake until the film just sort of ends. The first of several major foobarrs comes when a group of scientists decide the best way to deal with Godzilla is to create a black hole. On Earth. To do so, they create a wormhole through space and time, through which a prehistoric dragonfly enters. Great start to the plan. After making a nuisance of itself, the dragonfly goes back into the wormhole, leaving behind an egg, which a local boy takes with him to Tokyo before dumping it into the sewers. This egg hatches into the insect monster Meganulon, or later Megaguirus, who spends half the movie attacking random Tokyoites and getting enough XP to evolve into its final form. From there, it lays 1 million eggs, who all hatch into little mosquitoes who piss Godzilla off enough that he finally decides to throw down with the monster. In case you're wondering, the humans have had absolutely nothing to do with any of this for a while. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is, in a few words, incredibly lame. A hallmark of a great Godzilla film is that there are cool moments, scenes that drop your jaw to the floor. In this one, a big mosquito glides very slowly towards a Ferris wheel. If you're lucky, you might see it twitch a leg or flap a wing. As you can see, this movie is entirely lacking in anything that is remotely cool. The insect is lame when it comes out of the wormhole, the larvae form is lame and looks absolutely abysmal even for 2000 CGI, and the end battle with the final evolution seems like it should be cool, but it fights with so little energy that anything remotely resembling greatness is immediately dispelled. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is a mess of atrocious CGI, some real unconvincing acting, and a final fight that comes down to just Godzilla and a guy struggling to breathe inside of a butterfly costume lazily swatting at each other. The bit where Godzilla chomps down on its stinger and then blasts it from the sky is the single unique good moment about it. And now you've seen it. There is nothing left to see. We've seen Godzilla in many forms over the years. He's been a guy in a suit, he's been CGI, he's been Japanese and American, a mere 50 meters tall, and a whopping 120 meters in the Shin reboot. He's been in theme parks, and Charles Barkley dunked on him to sell Nikes. but strangely, with the exception of the result of bold, if strikingly bad choices on the part of Hanna-Barbera, we've never seen Godzilla in animated form. He did eventually get an anime series in 2021, a mere 67 years after his debut in a show that was... whatever, I didn't like it. But it wasn't the first Japanese animated outing for the franchise. A few years prior, we saw the release of a trilogy of animated films, Planet of the Monsters, The City on the Edge of Battle, and The Planet Eater. The films promised a fresh take on the franchise, set in a distant future where humanity had been wiped out from the Earth and the kaiju roamed freely. Humans have absconded the Earth with a group of aliens, but it's become clear that resources on the alien ship are dwindling, and so angsty anime protag Haruro Sakaki hatches a plan to kill Godzilla and make Earth hospitable again. Expect terrifying adventures in a wild, untamed world where everything is the size of a skyscraper and trying to kill you, the trailers seem to tell us. Endless thrills awaited, and then we were given a tiresome film about people stuck on a spaceship. It was like Alien, but only the scenes of the crew bickering. They do get to the monster planet Earth eventually, but nothing exciting happens. Godzilla doesn't even show up until the final few minutes. He does look good, he is the size of a bloody mountain after all. If nothing else, the creators realised that they could at least make him much, much bigger. That was really all the film had going for it. The sequels weren't much better. The middle film is unfathomably boring, spending most of its runtime on chatter and interpersonal issues. They introduce a second alien humanoid race, in case one wasn't enough, but barely a glimpse of the titular monster. The trilogy's saving grace comes in the third film, in the form of Ghidorah, who in these films is some sort of magical space snake approximately the size of Tengen Toppan Gurren Lagann. Other than that, the films are grim, uninspiring, and oddly motionless exercises in wasted potential that are more interested in the tied philosophies from its endless alien species than giving us big, bombastic Godzilla action. And it's the best medium for it too! Unfortunately for us, the Planet of the Monsters trilogy proved that bigger is certainly not always better. It's worth remembering that, despite his terrifying original film and the recent trend in serious, deep drama and high stakes, Godzilla has spent a good few years in the realm of camp. This started in earnest when Godzilla went and got himself a son in the form of Minilla. These 10 or so years, starting in the mid-60s, exemplified a time when Godzilla was being marketed to children, where he took on more of a heroic role, similar to Ultraman or Kamen Rider. It was a colour that did not suit him well. On the subject of Ultraman, Toho decided to create its own, with the frankly absurd-looking Jet Jaguar, a heroic robot who appeared in the 1973 film Godzilla vs. Megalon. Godzilla vs. Megalon is the absolute epitome of Godzilla's campy era, featuring almost no Godzilla, some cheaply sourced stock footage, and some truly silly humanoid aliens. This time, we have the Cetopians, sort of weird King Triton-looking fellas, who have remained underwater for centuries, but whose peace is disturbed thanks to, you guessed it, nuclear testing. Using their perfect grasp of the Japanese language and high-tech AI robotics, they unleash their own kaiju, a big dumb beetle-looking thing called Megalon, whose best attack is standing perfectly still and letting an effects artist scribble all over the frame. Megalon and the Cetopians manage to hijack Jet Jaguar, an Earth defense robot designed to protect the world. Think Ultron, but unfortunately not voiced by James Spader. Though, can we all spend a moment to appreciate how good that would be?
You, Avengers, you are my meteor, my swift and terrible sword, and the Earth will crack.
Things get even dumber when Jet Jaguar's gay dads manage to reprogram him back to normal, and the Cetopians contact the Nebulans, an entirely different alien race from a different movie, to send their monster Gigan back to Earth at what I can only assume is light speed. The Gigan then teams up with Megalon to kick Jet Jaguar's ass. Jet Jaguar learns to get bigger, it's in its programming to just get bigger somehow, and the fighting, or lack of a better term, commences for real. You've probably noticed how, despite the name of the movie, Godzilla has absolutely not appeared anywhere in this entire entry. That's because he isn't in it. Not until the final few minutes at least, when Jet Jaguar comes to him for help. Godzilla shows up near the end of the final fight, pumping his fist like a wrestler and getting the crowd all jazzed up. He's so lacking in threat that a child runs towards him. Gone are the world-shattering battles and destructive forces of nature. Godzilla vs. Megalon is as embarrassingly uncool as it looks, deeply lacking in thrills, as we witness what is just four dudes in costumes with various attention to detail smacking each other around for a bit on a largely empty studio. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Godzilla is a metaphor for many things, notably for the tragedies of war. In '54, he represented the countless lives lost when one uses weapons never meant to be wielded by man. In 2016, he was a symbol of government oversight and overwhelming bureaucracy in the face of tragedy. In 1969, he was a metaphor for neglectful parents. Earlier, I brought up Godzilla's adopted son Minilla, who ushered in the era of absolute Godzilla camp. He stayed around for only a few movies, the penultimate of which was 1969's iconically bad All Monsters Attack. Godzilla Final Wars we'll get to in another video. All Monsters Attack is largely about a kid called Ichiro, after director Ishiro Honda, who is often home alone thanks to his working parents. His only friends are a little girl and a toy maker, and he is often bullied. He escapes this life by dreaming he's on Monster Island, the place Godzilla and all the other non-evil monsters like to hang out. There, he spends time with Minilla, who in these dreams can speak, in case Minilla alone wasn't annoying enough. Minilla is also being bullied by an original monster who shares a name with Ichiro's bully, and together, over several extremely dull dream sequences, they learn to stand up to him and defeat him using the almighty power of seesaw technology. That's it. That's the movie. Also, together, they watch clips of Godzilla battling minor, and I mean minor, antagonists from previous films, brazenly claiming it's happening directly in front of them. It's not. It's all footage from previous movies. As for Godzilla himself, he is a mean dad in this movie, telling Minilla to pull himself up by his bootstraps. Outside of the reused sequences, he doesn't do anything other than kick the bully a few times after all said and done, and stomp about, probably looking for his slippers and newspaper and pipe. The film was massively banned for its overuse of old footage, its kid-centered storyline, and probably the fact that Minilla just never shuts up. But what stood out to me the most was that, despite the title promising us every monster attacking, this isn't even a Godzilla film. It's a film about a kid dreaming about Godzilla. This movie could have been set in our world and it wouldn't change anything. It's as much about Godzilla as Son of Rambo is a continuation of First Blood. The wild thing is that the base movie, as a comedy drama about a latchkey kid foiling bank robbers, isn't actually that terrible. The kid is a decent actor and everything else just operates on Home Alone logic. That alone could have made it an okay time, but shoehorning in the Godzilla films is so wholly unnecessary that it brings everything down with it. Godzilla has had some blunders in the past, but almost always his showing up has been the saving grace of the movie. If there's any sign your movie is bad, it's that you want the monsters to actually go away once they show up. And that's the list. I talk about Godzilla in more depth on various reviews over on my main site, theasiancinemacritic.com. If you can think of any more films that did the King of Monsters a huge disservice, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. And if you have any ideas for future videos, I'd love to hear about them too, in the next one.